when we told you this, Jeff, after we first met you, that you guys were so blessed to have this critter doing so well in your home regions. But all of that may come to an end soon if things continue down the road. And that's why we wanted you here today. Continue down the road of some relatively narrow-minded thinking by some individuals. Maybe you can expand on that if you do.
Well, certainly, it's a travesty what's going on. The Liberal Minister of Fisheries and Oceans has agreed with the Atlantic Salmon Federation to cull 175,000 fish out of 420,000 striped bass in the Miramichi. It was done without science. It's done strictly political. It's a travesty. So I just can't even believe it's happening. We're working hard at, trying to raise our voice, but our voice is poor. I mean, we don't have the kind of money, right?
It's almost like they have a thing for the striped bass. It's weird.
It's just low hanging fruit. The only person they get to be quiet is me. And if they can shut me up, they got a free reign for this thing right now. But let's follow the money.
This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. J&B Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures. Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're almost there, almost through another season, another year.
Yes, sir.
Behind us.
Very close, very close, yeah.
Season. Thank you for joining us, Peter Bowman, Angelo Viola,
Hi.
Boba, Nick, and Dean.
Come on now.
Behind the scene.
Yeah.
Nick and Dean.
So we're past Christmas and getting on to New Year's coming up.
Have you got any big plans coming up? Or are you gonna lay low?
Chill, buddy. Chill. This is my time to chill. I like, the winter time. I'm gonna chill. I sort of set everything, the boats in storage, and just dream about the up and coming open water season again.
And it's coming. Our 40th year, baby. It's coming.
Yeah.
Hello. Great episode today, folks. Hello.
You and Steve Austin were just giving her good there.
Our very good friend will be coming on the program very shortly.
Steve
haven't
Austin?
had him on for
Stone
Steve.
Cold?
Well, you know what?
We haven't.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
He'd be
Dean.
an awesome
Like, what are you
guest,
waiting
wouldn't
for,
he?
Dean?
Is he an angler?
Does he
I wonder?
fish? He's got to fish.
He's got to fish.
They all, everybody,
He eats fish for sure. He
everybody
eats fish.
fishes. Some people don't like to admit it, but everybody fishes. All right. It's funny. I was talking to a banker a while back. This is one of those downtown Bay Street bankers.
Yes.
Right. He's anyways, avid viewer of the Fishing Canada show, avid angler. So I asked him. I said, Bill, how many times during one of those high level corporate banking meetings, how many times have you ever said to your fellow bankers, "Hey, let's go out fishing this weekend"? He says, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "I would never say that."
Pourquoi?
How come? So you don't want to know. You don't want to let him know you do that. I said,
Come on.
I said, you're shitting me.
Come on now.
He said, no, it's just not something that
Go
they do.
golfing. They'd go golfing, right?
Of
They
course.
like that.
Of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
So he's in the closet about it. I
Just
said,
ask
you've
him
got to
about-
be kidding me.
Ask them to invite them out for a hunt. Let's go kill some partridge or something like
exactly.
that. See what they say.
I said, we're
Wow.
woke, for Christ's sakes. We're woke. Come out of the closet. You're an angler. Tell the world. He said, no, I can't do that.
Wow.
Anyways, I found that rather
He's
strange.
kind of embarrassed about his
I know.
angling. Wow.
Jeff Wilson will be joining us, kids. You remember him,
Come
the
on now.
Striper Cup. He is the co-founder the spokesperson for, the ambassador,
Host
of the Striper Cup and stripers in general, especially on the Miramichi, the St. John River, East Coast, New Brunswick.
There he is holding a largemouth. There, he's even got a largemouth. He's a tournament angler. He'll weigh in largemouth, smallmouth on the bass tournaments. He's a name out there. Just ask him. And
a conservationist extraordinaire. He's going to be coming on the program today to speak about an issue that's been rearing its ugly head for, I would say, over the last 3 or 4 years.
We've been talking about it too.
And it's this struggle between the Atlantic salmon aficionados and the striped bass anglers. And it seems to be this ongoing war. Well, guess what? It's come to a head. Illegal actions are taking place. And Jeff is going to fill in the blanks for us when he comes on a little bit later on. But first,
what a battle.
I want to just point out to the folks.
First time seeing.
I want you
right
to point
there.
out, it does exist. We've been talking about this for several months.
Look at there.
It is now here. This is
There's you
the
right now.
new. There's me right now. This is the new lineup for the Fishing Canada brand. It's the reinterpreted Fishing Canada brand, if you will.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that the traditional Fishing Canada brand is not still viable, because it is. But this is a little different twist.
Why did you not wear your pickerel one?
That's my favorite.
I know. Why did you not wear that?
You want to know the truth? I forgot to bring it in.
Oh, you had it on the other day, didn't you? You took it home, didn't you?
I forgot to bring it in.
I was thinking, what the hell's going on with this guy?
It's my favorite, and obviously it is the audience's favorite. It's been just blowing off the shelf.
Come on. Really?
Come on now.
I think it was one of the most
thing.
popular fishing or Christmas gifts that people purchased on fishingcanada.com.
Look at you. How did you predict that? Eh?
I didn't predict it. It's easy
you
to
were
look at
all over
numbers.
it. As soon as you designed it, you said,
I told
that's
you
it.
that was going to be hot.
That's the numero uno.
It's crazy hot. I love it. It's fantastic. Anyways, all of this is sitting there now at fishingcanada.com, the gateway to the portal, actually, to your next fishing adventure. But if you want to stop and shop, you certainly should be doing that there as well. There's a bunch of other things there that are new. Some hats, some new hat designs, hats that have got...
Do say ball cap hats or
ball cap
or
hats
or?
with, and there's the new toques as well for the winter season upon us. It's all available there at shop.fishingcanada.com if you want to go through the back door. Otherwise, enter where I'm usually hanging out, and that is fishingcanada.com, the front door.
Excellent, Smithers.
What else we got?
Well, we get some listener feedback. If you want to hear any about that.
Why don't we do that?
This is from Larry McNally via Facebook. So we got one through via Facebook. We got it through all our avenues. Facebook, Instagram, email, doesn't matter. We'll take it all. YouTube, doesn't matter. Boys, here's a good one. It means we're making a difference here, Ange, because I think he's telling us that we're making a difference here. Boys, I bought a live scope at the start of the year to lake trout fish. Last year, we caught 63 fish in 2023. And in 2024, with the scope, we caught 127. So that's over double. That's one over double, right?
And he's attributing it to live scope.
It has been awesome and very exciting to learn about the fish.
Yeah.
That's the key right there, what he's saying, to learn about the fish. Yeah, you're going to catch more fish, but you're learning so much about it. So Larry's got that, now he's got that bug with the live scope. So yeah.
You know what I'd like to do? And this is fantastic, and thank you, Larry, for sending this in.
A couple of Lakers right there. And how deep are they?
9.8 feet.
Oh, yeah, those are 98 feet. So
I'd like to know from people like Larry. So he doubled his catch rate from 63 to 127. I would like to know how many hours he actually spent angling as opposed to...
You know what I mean?
Like, in other words, so if it took him 100
ice
hours...
fishing or open water, too. He never said that either.
No.
Right?
Well, we have to assume a lot of lake trout are probably ice fishing, but not necessarily the case.
Right.
It'd be interesting to find out, because I think what we're going to see as time goes on here, the people are going to say, I spent half the time fishing, more time catching than I ever have before, and I got bigger numbers from it. Because I know that's happening with us. right? We spend more time finding fish and less time actually trying to catch them, which has been kind of an interesting, I think anyways, change to the way we fish. And we owe it all, of course, to things like live scope and all the technology that's at hand today for anglers. I think it's fantastic. You learn so much more, and I'm glad
and I'll bet you, I got a good feeling that Larry probably didn't keep that many more fish in this doubled caught fish versus kept, because if it's the type of guy like us, we keep a couple here and there, and you throw the rest back. You know what I mean? Now you catch more that same day. You're releasing 10 fish that day instead of 5 fish that day. You know what I mean? There's a lot more released fish too. So I'm hoping that Larry, didn't kill double his rate either.
That too, but based on the episode, and I don't remember what. Dean, maybe you could help me. Which episode did we do the mislabeling of fish?
146.
146. Since that episode.
Did Dean pull that out of his arse? Did he lie to you, or is he actually that accurate? That's my question.
Since that episode, I've been thinking a little differently in terms of my catch and release rates.
Really? Yours?
I'm eating a lot of fish, and I might want to try and make sure I'm eating what I think I'm eating from
you're buying that fish, though. That's not your catch. You release what you release. You know what you release. You know your rate of release.
Yeah, but I might want to keep a few more rather than go to the store and buy fish that I've been doing.
Yeah,
that's
a good point.
I don't do.
That's
I don't keep fish. But now that I'm knowing that there's a possibility of mislabeled fish when I go to the store to buy it, I might want to
release into the grease.
Release into the grease. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Wow. Anyways, thanks, Larry. That was we're glad we could help you out, buddy. And remember, catch and release is a big part of all this new technology. And keep up the good work.
Which means I won't be as conservation-minded as I have in the past, by the way. Just
speaking of conservation, is that what you're saying? I was going to say conversation. Speaking of conservation.
It's time for Conservation Corner, kiddies, brought to you by the Invasive Species Centre. And today's topic is Asian carp information session.
Yes.
Here we go.
Indeed.
Have I got the right one here, Dean, now in front of me?
Yeah, that's the right one.
Did you know that grass carp have the potential to negatively impact popular sport fishing such as northern pike, bass, smallmouth bass, yellow perch, among others?
How about lake trout? They even have that. For sure they would. We just talked about it.
Yeah, lake trout would be another one.
It's all part of the system, right?
Although our lake trout is dependent on weed growth, do you think, as most other fish?
They're dependent on the fish that need the weed growth. I mean, sure, somehow, you know what I mean? I'm sure Cisco, herring, and everything, there's something...
There's a connection there.
They eat the little guys that are in the weeds, and then that to the cycle.
Like these guys.
Brook trout.
They go nibbling in.
That's right.
Wondering how they might impact Canadian waters at Great Lakes if they were to establish. And we're talking about the Asian carp, grass carp in particular.
Yep, that one.
And join the Invasive Species Centre for a grass carp information session coming up in a few weeks, January 28th of this year, from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Windsor Sportsman's Club in Windsor, Ontario. Doesn't mean you have to be in Windsor to attend, because I know Dean is going to be heading down there to attend now, right, Dean?
Yep, I'll be there.
Yeah, that's
Well, you have to be in Windsor to attend.
But you don't have to be from Windsor.
That's what you're saying.
Can you? Do you think they would make it available like electronically?
Last year in Belleville, there were people who were checked in online who were listening.
They need to do that. We'll have to talk to our friends
though,
here.
to go and talk to everyone and ask questions.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of interesting people there, including ourselves, maybe. So
it's a long trip though for us, right?
Did you commit us to?
Did you volunteer? You committed me, so.
You see? Mm-hmm. You got you, Dino. I guess what you're coming at.
There will be booths, expert presentations, and Q&A sessions where you can ask all of your burning questions. Those who attend can enjoy complimentary food and refreshments.
That's worth going right there. That's worth going for.
Weren't they? Remember that night? Right. The local club there, the ladies made those wonderful...
everything. The sandwiches, the veggie trays, the whole 9 yards. It was good.
It was wonderful. And refreshments, of course. And you've also got a chance. Here's the big one. Here it is. You can actually, somebody will be winning a Yeti backpack cooler.
Give me a hell yeah!
Woo! Hell
A Yeti backpack cooler.
Give me a hell yeah!
Valued at over $400 or just at $400. I guess it'd be depending on where you're buying it, right?
Depends on the retailer, of course.
Could be on sale this
anything
time of
Yeti
year.
is $400. I think these mugs are $400, aren't they?
Well, this time of year, like, Boxing Day and Boxing Week, they would be on sale, I would think. But
I don't know. Does Yeti put sales on?
Probably
I tell
not.
what,
They don't need to.
They sell good stuff. So
whether you're a seasoned angler or just out starting and passionate about protecting Canadian Great Lakes, this session would be for you. Mark the calendar. January 28th, get the crayon out, circle it, underline it, do whatever you need to do. January 28th at 6 to 9 p.m., the festivities will start. And that's all happening at the Windsor Sportsman's Club, courtesy of the good people at asiancarp.com or
.ca.
Where are we? Throwing me off.
No, in the news, no.
Sure.
We missed the news.
Let's go in the news, Peter.
Did we miss the news? No, we didn't. In the news, this is a great story. This is everybody's going to get a kick of that. And Dean's going to run some video, I believe, behind us here.
I have a security camera footage playing behind you guys.
Okay, so California has seen its share of bears breaking into cars, but bears caught on camera entering luxury cars tipped off by insurers that there was something not quite right. I can't wait to see this thing. That's supposed to be a bear in there. But what's dubbed Operation Bear Claw, the California Insurance Department said 4 Los Angeles residents were arrested Wednesday accused of defrauding 3 insurance companies out of nearly $142,000 U.S. by claiming a bear had caused damage to their vehicles. The group accused of providing video footage right here in the San Bernardino Mountains area in January, seeing a bear moving inside of Rolls-Royce and 2 Mercedes-Benz to the insurance companies as part of their damage claims. Photos provided.
So, okay, let me just stop you there because I'm a little confused at this story. So, a group of would-be
individuals,
crooks, decided to get a bear costume and go commit vandalism or theft in this case, and thinking that if we're dressed as a bear, we can steal stuff from the Mercedes-Benz and the BMW or whatever you said, and the local authorities won't bother chasing us because they'll think it's a bear that actually stole those stereo units and headrests and all that stuff.
No, I think it's their own vehicles.
It's their own cars.
It's their own vehicles. They're claiming fraud.
That's why I'm asking.
So that's how they're trying to get this $142,000 worth.
So they trash their vehicles,
like a Rolls Royce and 2 Mercedes. Think about that.
They trash them. So these people, first of all, they have to be in a position to own these cars. So these are not homeless people that are just getting by on a
Rolls and a couple of Mercedes.
And they have to buy a bear suit. Those aren't cheap.
I have a picture of the bear suit here. Let me show you this.
Yeah, because later on
those aren't cheap.
Right behind you guys.
So, whoa, that's pretty good actually. Look at the claws on that sucker.
That's an elaborate outfit.
And they got those are the claws that rip up the I'm sure I don't know
so
how
they
this works.
They had an investment to start with.
Yes.
Wow.
So detectives found the 2 additional claims with 2 different insurance companies. So of the 4 with the same date of loss and the same location. So obviously they were putting things together. Similar video provided the bear inside the Mercedes vehicles. The department had a biologist from California Department of Wildlife, Fish and Wildlife, review the 3 videos and concluded that clearly a human in a bear suit was viewed in here. It says, after executing a search warrant, detectives found said bear costume at the suspect's home, the department said. What? So the group has been arrested.
What was the motivation?
There's got to be something to do with this $140,000 or whatever it was.
No, but I'm still trying to figure that out.
I know.
So $142,000 US. So they would have had to steal things from that car. That's what we're
ripping
missing.
It up too. They're ripping it up like they're
they're ripping up
claws.
Yeah, they're ripping it up so that it would look like a bear did it. But there must have been something of value in those cars that they actually took. and then claimed to the insurance company. Because I'm thinking, if you've got a perfectly good Mercedes-Benz,
unless they don't
why
fix the
would you
car.
want to tear it up only to get paid what it's worth pre-tearing
I know,
up?
it's weird.
If
Unless
you
they're
already
stealing
own
the
it.
cars or something, maybe they're stealing the cars, but then you couldn't insure
But you
it.
couldn't insure it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You're already paying insurance because, like,
It's a weird one.
so it had to have. They had to have.
Or they drive it
something
around
of
like
value.
a piece of shit that's ripped up now, and they don't care. They want the money more than they want the car.
Well, that doesn't make sense at all.
None of this makes sense. It's just a funny ass story. It's good. Like it's hilarious.
I don't know.
I didn't see the video. Was it pretty funny? The dude
No,
in there.
you could barely see it.
Yeah,
as usual.
that's what they're doing, right? They're trying to make
a
it
Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Volvo, what do you think? Is this real or not? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs down. Volvo says thumbs down. Nick, what do you think?
Nick
Thumbs
likes it.
up. Okay,
yeah. That
thumbs up.
costume. They skinned a bear. They killed the bear and skinned him. Left him on there. That's what they did there.
That's the weirdest
A
thing.
real bear.
I'll bet you they had something of value inside the car that they ended up
That's a
stealing.
damn good costume. I like that. It's a brown
Anyways.
bear. It's a grizzly. Is the California bears brown bears?
Yep. Yeah, they
The important
So
thing
they got
is that
smart on that one,
they were
at least.
apprehended and no longer are able to commit these heinous crimes.
And no, you didn't hear anything further, Dean, on fines or sentencing or anything like that?
No, at the
by any
time
chance?
of this recording, this like just happened. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be an ongoing. Maybe we can report back on this one
Maybe
when
we
we
can
get
have
more.
them on when they get out of jail.
I don't want those criminal assholes on here. Piss on them.
Time for the question of the week, my friend, which might be a little more interesting than that story, quite honestly, because it's brought to you by our good friends at FishfinderMounts.com.
You didn't find that? That has to be an
Come on
interesting
now.
story to you. It was interesting because it
Finder,
was nuts.
you would think. See, I would expect that you would find that interesting.
You asked more questions than anybody.
I
You
know
were all
because
about it. It's interesting.
it just was
It
ridiculous.
piqued your interest.
Brought to you by FishfinderMounts.com. Did I mention that, Dean? Because that's who brings us.
I heard that, yeah.
Okay.
heard of those guys.
FishfinderMounts.com.
I've heard of those guys. They're pretty good.
Question of the week. They sponsor it.
Yeah.
And this one is submitted by a Grant Walsh from Alberta via
Come on
email.
now.
Joe Walsh's brother.
Via email. Now, correct me, Dean, also if I'm right here. Is Mr. Walsh eligible?
He's the first one eligible.
Well, there you
First
go.
one.
Congratulations to Grant
yeah.
Walsh from Alberta via email. He's eligible for the $100 Buckaroos from fishingcanada.com, the store.
Eligible. How does he get it?
Yeah, because
How
I
does
think
Grant get it if he's
I
eligible?
think we said that you guys have to read the question
Yeah.
and then decide if it's good or not.
I know that.
Ah.
He doesn't know
Yeah.
that, but I know that.
Right.
So that's why I said eligible. He trying to correct me and
Because this
because he
question could
doesn't
be
remember
horrible.
how things work. By the way, this was submitted via email.
That's correct.
Now I understand that we're going to be alternating this, Dean. How does this work?
Yeah, the next one we'd like to be a YouTube comment. So if you comment under this podcast on YouTube, we'll be picking the next one from there.
From YouTube. So we're going to be selective as to where we're actually picking
yeah,
these from.
We might do Instagram the one week or
Perfect.
whatever, but yeah.
So the next one, if you want to be eligible to win the $100, the next one has to be submitted on YouTube.
Oh, by the way, let's make sure they're subscribed as well, Ange. How about we do that? Subscribe and leave a comment after they subscribe. So if you're not subscribed, you don't win. How's that?
Done. Now,
like that.
now is Mr. Walsh, is Grant Walsh, is he eligible to submit on YouTube?
No.
No.
So he's done now.
He's a
For-
rich man already.
And how long is he done for? Well, we're assuming he's going to win, right? We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
How long is he out of the game for? He's on long
1 year.
term. 1 year. So it's long term.
Yeah.
I think Dean's doing a little bit of
IR.
arse pulling again.
I wasn't prepared for this.
But you're doing good, bud. You're doing
all right.
good. So let's make it a year. You can't win
1 year.
1 year. That's good. I like
So
it.
for the 100 Buckaroos, courtesy of fishingcanada.com, the store, here we go. Grant Walsh says, you guys talk a lot about trying not to get stuck in your ways. What are some examples of habits and preferences you're still stubborn about or with? He says, actually, question mark, quotations. So what are the examples of habits and preferences you're still stubborn with? Now, first of all, before we answer that, is that does that a qualifying question?
It's good. It's a valid question in the sense that he's calling us out on what we've said before, right?
So he listens to all of them, obviously.
He listens to.
Congratulations to Grant Walsh from Alberta. Big hand from everybody. Our very first.
We're all just waiting for him to say yes or no, because if we say yes, he's going to say, yeah, no, I don't think so.
Our very first winner. 100 buckaroos, buddy. I'm assuming that we will be contacting Mr. Walsh and figuring out.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of him.
All right.
Email. We're going to email him, right?
Right.
Next one will be from YouTube, though.
And then we have to YouTube him to give him his
We're
prize?
going to have to go back,
Yeah,
comments
I'll track him
via
down there,
YouTube.
too.
Yeah.
All right.
It's pretty easy to do.
All right. So
very easy
I'll
to
let you take the lead on this because I read the question, so you need to give the answer. And I will donate an answer, too.
Yeah, I was
If
gonna
I don't
say
like
there's-
yours, I'll donate.
Well, there's not an answer, Angelo, since it's you guys talk and it's about our different preferences and fishing and stuff like that. And I think to me, one of my biggest problems is fishing too slow. I try to just execute and work, and I'm going to get that, whatever like that. You look at a guy like Kevin Van Dam, when I'm bass fishing, I'm talking about more than anything, where that guy's on high speed. His trolling motor's on 3/4 to full until he finds something. I never put my trolling motor on 3/4 to full, hardly ever, unless I'm going from a spot to a spot I'm not fishing. So I think that's one of my biggest ones. Is I'm working on it, and I'm starting to throw more square bill crankbaits and more chatterbaits and stuff like that, and I'm refining my ways.
I wonder if there is a study somewhere out there that can give us results from fast to slow fishing. In other words, you're saying that you're trying to, break yourself of that habit.
No,
right?
I'm trying to add to my game.
Tried to add to it. Remember when we were down at the the Pan American Black Bass Tournament on the East Coast, and we followed one day. We were
Jacob Wheeler.
shooting.
Those guys are crazy.
Jacob Wheeler, like talk about fishing fast.
Yeah, that was insane.
And in my opinion, talking about fishing inefficiently, but hey, who could argue with this guy? He's the winningest dude on the planet right now.
Yeah.
But he was so fast.
Like, they didn't even hit that raft that one
Do
time.
you remember?
That perfect raft. And they said, okay, when is he going to hit that raft? Right around it, and phew, gone. And like, yeah, whoa, okay. Yeah, so that's why I think that's one of my faults is that, and it always has been. I used to get my ass kicked when I first started tournament fishing, I used to be a plastic worm and jig guy all the time. And then these guys would come in talking, and we get 6 fish, me and Mikey Burris, you get 6 fish for the day, all day long, or 8 fish. And then these guys would come in, and Bruce Fitzgibbons, guys like that, they would throw spinner baits, and they'd be, oh my God, we got 35 of them today. 35 largemouth.
Before
Are you
breakfast.
kidding? Yeah. So I've always had to get over that hurdle. That's a big one. Another one with me in the world of electronics, we'll say, is into live scoping. I love the forward view so much that I don't use the perspective enough. Still to this day, I still don't use the perspective enough. So I have to get onto that. When I use it, it's effective at times, and I'm learning more about it. But that's one of my things, a hurdle that I have to, I'm stuck in my ways. Now I got live scope forward. That's beautiful. That's all I'm going to stay on. So, stuff like that.
Mine
it's more of a
would be kind of in conjunction with that. And it's not necessarily speed, but it's more location driven. I'm still having it, even though I know we have conclusive evidence to prove that there are as many catchable fish behind us as there are ahead of us. I'm still a shoreline guy when it comes right down to it.
You definitely are, for sure.
I still like to use, I'm not saying fishing right up on shore. I'm not saying, fishing shallow. I like to use shoreline to guide me into fishing locations.
Justifiably so. Let's be honest.
I can't
How many fish
just-
have we caught on shorelines in our life, right?
Exactly.
Of all species.
Even though we know for a fact that there are as many fish out there as there are there. Now that live scope has opened eyes for us under the water. Even knowing that, I still have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
And don't do it enough. So
Yeah.
there you go.
There you go.
Very good question, Grant Walsh. Congratulations, $100 coupon. It's a $100 coupon.
Wonder what Grant's going to get. What do you think?
Wow,
Grant's
if he's smart at all, he'll look at me with this and say, "I got to have me one of those."
Yeah.
And the hoodie too, by the way. It's
Yeah.
nice, Thank you, Dean. Wow, see, Dean's on it. Dean's all over it. All right, and speaking of Boxing Day, this segment is brought to you by Sail, the outdoor store. Sail is home to all things ice fishing. 'Tis the season, including rods, reels, tackle, clothing, and a whole bunch more, Mr. Bowman.
Head on over to Sail, their stores, and bookmark their website at sail.ca. Shop now to receive up to 60% of select items.
Which is a lot.
That's big time, bud.
It's a lot.
That's big time.
Okay, here's a guy who's never on sale. He's always at a premium price. Our good friend Jeff Wilson.
He's always selling stuff, though. Like, he's a pretty good salesman.
He is.
I will say that.
Sure. Co-founder and host of the Miramichi Striper Cup, tournament bass angler, and just an all-around great outdoors spokesperson. Hello, Jeffrey.
Good morning, boys. Did you get any of that big snowstorms up there or what? Any snow in Toronto?
We got a little bit of snow the other day, and she's gone already, buddy. Yeah. So it's it's just a little intro to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, it's just think it has to come before it goes. So spring will be here before you know it.
You know it. Hey, Jeff, you're a co-founder of the Miramichi Striper Cup. Who is your other founder?
The city. Well, I had contacted the mayor at the time to do this tournament, and then they came back and asked me if they could be a partner. Okay. And we started in 2015.
Beautiful.
And so they the mayor introduced me to Jeff McTavish, as you guys know him, and we worked it from there.
Beautiful.
Right? So,
okay.
Yeah.
You were responsible for getting us hooked on stripers. I got to tell you.
There's no doubt about that.
We had fished them on a few occasions prior to that, but it wasn't until we came down, hooked up with you, and we actually fished one of your events, and we got completely wired on this.
Isn't that funny, because we were pretty good at it like a long time ago, and then we went on pause, sort of a hiatus or whatever, and then we got back on the St. John down in Quispamsis with Arsenal.
I'm impressed with
Henry Arsenal, and he got us under some big fish that trip. And then after that, we went on sort of a hiatus, I guess, or whatever, just didn't show up. And then Jeffy just got us hooked on it bad.
We were, and we told you this, Jeff, after we first met you, that you guys were so blessed to have this critter doing so well in your home regions, because, the rest of the country, a lot of us don't have it available as you guys do. I mean, you go out your back door and there's stripers everywhere, or at least at the time.
They don't even spell it right. They call us strippers.
Strippers, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
But all of that may come to an end soon if things continue down the road. And that's why we wanted you here today. Continue down the road of some relatively narrow-minded thinking by some individuals. Maybe you can expand on that if you would.
Well, certainly, it's a travesty what's going on. The Liberal Minister of Fisheries and Oceans has agreed with the Atlantic Salmon Federation to cull 175,000 fish out of 420,000 striped bass in the Miramichi. And many, many scientists disagree with that. They say that could be the end of the fisheries. So, it was done without science. It's done strictly political. It's a travesty. So we have mobilized as a group, and we're in the position, to start with the Striped Bass Association kind of kicking up, and we got a bunch of chapters because, the reality is that the striped bass in the Miramichi populate Quebec, PEI, Nova Scotia, Cape Breton top, and New Brunswick. And so this population or the culling of this population won't just affect New Brunswick. It will affect the entire Gulf region. And so it's, I just can't even believe it's happening. We're working hard at, trying to raise our voice, but our voice is poor. I mean, we don't have the kind of money, right?
That Liberal minister, he obviously obviously knows this is going to devastate the fishery, right? I mean, I'm assuming they can't say, I was just helping or like that.
We're making assumptions on that one. I think that might be stretching it, saying that they obviously don't. But the problem is a lot of these politicians, and especially ministers who are in fairly high-level positions, sometimes are ill-informed. And these people aren't out in the field, Jeff. Okay, this person has never been on your river and fished for stripers, has never talked to you or the other anglers in the area. They make decisions based on what they're told by their people. So let's not make an assumption that she would know that this is going to devastate stripers.
So you would think that, would you not think that she'd say, well, why are we going to call 175,000 fish? There's got to be a reason for that. And then somebody's going to bullshit her, or you're what you're saying, right?
Well, the director of DFO and the DFO, there's a Coswick report put out by Science that was to be delivered to the minister that asked this question 2 years ago. And before the science came, they made the decision, even though they knew the science would go against it. The DFO talked to a reporter today who actually called me to get some insight on this, who said that he tried to get DFO to comment. They would talk about everything but salmon and stripers. And so they've been told to be quiet.
Yep.
So you're not going to get the true information. There is a, go ahead, sorry.
If we could just go down a little bit of memory lane here and bring a little history to the segment. This is not the first time that stripers have been targeted. It happened as recently as the early 90s, I believe, in your area, where similar, not quite the same, but similar new regulations were put in effect. And I believe within, 2 years, 3 years, the population was pretty much all gone, to the point where they had to shut everything down and say, okay, no more stripers, leave them alone because they're going to collapse. And yet here we are again going down that same road.
History repeats itself, like the Miramichi River back in the early 1900s, say 1900 to, pretty much right around the 70s, we harvested about 60 tons a year of striped bass out of the river. And so the historical levels were nowhere near that. But in 1995, there was 175,000 fish in the school. And it was the last year of commercial fisheries. The very next year, there was only 13,500 left. And so they went into a shutdown and they shut the fisheries down. And I don't know if you've been watching on the social media, but we put all kinds of documents out there, newspaper clippings. They got to shut this down, and everybody complaining, which they did. Yeah. And then it was right up until just about 2001, 2002 that they started to see some rebound. Like there was some in the river and guys were using them. And that's when I was up there fishing them. It was just hook and release because there was no season. And so they did bump up fairly good right up until about 2018. There was a big blip in 2018 to almost 1 million fish. And then in 2019, that went down to less than 400,000.
Wow.
And so that was no commercial fisheries or anything. And it's just because of the northern, how north these fish are. So they said a lot of those fish moved to Labrador and around looking for, new homeland, new water. And they died. A lot of them died. But the history is there. This document from DFO talks about a lower and upper reference point for the school. And we're in the cautious zone right now. And even now, they're going to go ahead and do exactly what they did in 1995. Same thing.
Same exact thing. Expect a different result,
Yeah.
Let's bring people up to speed that might be new to this whole thing. When we say they, and you've referenced now politics, you've referenced DFO, but really the crux of this and the pressure from this whole movement, from what most of us can tell, is from the Atlantic Salmon Federation. And what I find interesting there is that most of those folks that belong to that organization are well-intentioned people, and they truly are conservationists. They've had to be following the Atlantic salmon, obviously, but I think they're misinformed because the striper bass in Miramichi, for example, has absolutely nothing to do with the decline of the Atlantic salmon, and yet they're being fed that information for reasons unknown to most of us. that it's the bass's fault, and therefore we need to eradicate the bass. It's like a bunch of vigilantes with guns and pitchforks going out, in the dark trying to find the bad guys.
It's probably an easy excuse, right? I mean, there's so many of these stripers in there. They're a voracious eater. You use that as their first excuse and you eradicate them. And then if it doesn't work, then we have to try something else. Maybe, I don't know what their
It's the weirdest
thought is.
thing. I'm trying to analyze this thing, and I just can't get a grip on it. I don't understand what the motivation is. It's almost like they have a thing for the striped bass. It's weird.
It's just low hanging fruit. The only
That's what I was saying,
the only person they got to get to be quiet is me. And if they can shut me up, they got a free reign for this thing right now. But let's follow the money. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about the money. And if you look carefully at the folks that donate big money, you'll find that why they go silent on certain things that are detrimental to this. It's a crazy thing, but they got a lot of money. And I don't want to talk to a forestry company because they give me $20 million. So nobody wants to talk about how fast these rivers. You've been there when it rains and it fills the river up in one day and it's gone. That used to take weeks for that trickle down cold water to keep the rivers cool. Doesn't happen anymore. We're not going to talk about that though, because we get paid for that. We don't want to talk about a lot of different things, and they stopped the stocking. They stopped the hatcheries. All of this happened before. We did all this before. This is not new.
You're talking hatcheries for Atlantic salmon.
Yeah,
exactly. One of the silent benefactors that's kind of sitting back, taking all this in, I find kind of interesting as well, and maybe taking flack for something they don't deserve to take flack for, is the Aboriginal communities in the areas. Because they've all of a sudden been given this opportunity to harvest, 3 times more stripers than they ever have traditionally. And they got nothing. They don't even want it. It's not even like they went to Ottawa and said, hey, we'd like more license quotas. No, it's just, it was sort of thrown on their plate.
There's been traditionally, we have manipulated them over centuries, and this is just the final manipulation that we want you to get onto this, and they haven't been able to be successful. They're going to sell this for lobster bait, so it's not even value added. But here's the thing: we're not, the natives have a net just below the barrier net on the Northwest Miramichi, and you could get a $20 salmon this summer in the Miramichi, no problem.
Oh, no kidding.
What?
So if now apparently they're allowed food and ceremonial.
Right.
But any true conservationist, if we're actually at the point that we feel like the salmon are endangered, which they are, and I think the salmon fishery should be shut down, just like they did the striped bass. Yeah. If they're true conservationists, would you not stop that? Would you stop that?
Well, if I was truly committed to conserving the Atlantic salmon on the eastern part of Canada, I would absolutely. First thing I would do is shut it all down, have some kind of a moratorium on that whole fishery until further notice, until we can actually get to the bottom of it and find out what the hell's going wrong. But that's not the approach they're taking. They're saying, no, let's kill stripers and anything else that we think is probably the cause. We're not sure. There's no science involved, but that could be the cause for the demise of the Atlantic salmon, as opposed to saying, we need to stop fishing for them. We shut her down.
The Atlantic Salmon Federation continues with hook and release on the Miramichi River with a 9% delayed mortality on hook and release fishing. So they, in fact, are killing the same fish they're trying to conserve. The other thing is that we have had diet studies of the striped bass. 1,100 fish are randomly sampled. Less than 2% in their stomach contents were salmonoid, which means that some of those could be trout. So there's plenty of scientific evidence and many reports by DFO that the striped bass are not having a significant impact on Atlantic salmon. And all the rivers around Atlantic Canada are in the same situation, and they don't have any striped bass. So it's an easy scapegoat to to stop the difficult conversation of shutting the fishery down and following exactly what they did with the striped bass, where they shut it down, allowed it to rebound for 20 years, and then opened it back up. That's a very difficult decision and a lot of economic impact to the lodge owners up the rivers and all those sorts of things, which we, certainly would be devastating to some of those folks. Just like when we shut the cod fishery down, which has never rebounded in 30 years. And the number one concern that is right across the Gulf Coast is the nutrient sources in the river. We have decimated the herring and the rainbow smelt for lobster feed because there's no quotas. And if you can have a number of commercial enterprises would stand on the show and talk to you about the same thing. And so when you don't have nutrient source, you don't have big fish. So that's the cod have not come back. And all those things is exactly the same procedure that happens. So when you're in the Miramichi, typically the bass would be in the Miramichi in the spring, and the par and would be coming down. There would be a smoke screen of herring and all the other fish that the striped bass actually target. And so that smoke screen's gone. And when you talk to the smelt guys, the fish, and I talk to them all, you guys know Matthew Grigan, great guy, commercial fisherman. He'll be the first one to tell you that they over harvested the river for herring and rainbow smelt. So, we always hear the argument, well, we got to have balance. The salmon guys, well, we can't have that many stripers. It's out of balance. And so my question is, would you like the balance to be 1930, 1920, 1980? Like, what balance are we talking about here?
Right.
No, we just want more salmon. We don't really care about balance. We just want more salmon.
Right.
And so it's us or them type war that's going on right now, and the striper guys, like the salmon guys, catching fish is boring. And I'm going, I never talked to anybody that told me catching too many fish was boring. Like that's been not a thing. That's why they're all out there buying $50,000 boats and $50,000 trucks and live scope this. And it's boring. Oh, I hate it. I'm never going again. Not too many. Why my kids want to go all the time.
By the way, I want to know where you're buying a $50,000 boat and a $50,000 truck, because I want to come in and buy some of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's
the economic impact. And I talked like some of the businesses in the Miramichi, and they're pretty upset too. But they have to be so careful because of the politics. Right. Like if you're a boat dealer and you speak out, it's even like, me talking about the First Nations. Like, you got to be careful. This is not, you've heard of the Elver fishery that's been decimated now because everybody's chasing it. Every fishery, the lobster fishery, the competition for money is so big. Yeah. And it's crazy. And for them, it's easy money. It's about getting easy money. And, I'm passionate. I salmon fish my life. I'd love to see the salmon come back, but I'm not, and I've not found one scientist that will say, if we get rid of every striped bass, the salmon will rebound. Right. And if I find one that can say that,
Jeff's got to search on it.
Right? Hey, Jeff, does anybody talk about what I feel is the elephant in the room? This is not something that is unique to Eastern Canada, and I'm talking about the plight of the Atlantic salmon. It's a global thing. What are they doing in the Scandinavian countries where their salmon fishery is even in worse condition than ours?
Yeah, there's Norway.
Is there a striped bass pandemonium going there?
I saw an article I shared on Facebook the other day. It was from Norway saying how their salmon are depleted and everything, and I put on there, those darn Miramichi striped bass swam over the ocean, ate the salmon, and came home. It's their efforts, the Salmon Federation's efforts, and I don't make any money on striped bass. I have to volunteer for my time. I don't get paid $200,000 to be the director of ASF. I don't have all the money in the world like they do. If they spent more time actually thinking about conservation, then we'd be in better shape. Like, really, the striped bass fishermen, even we're inviting a lot of people have come into this fishery and now are like really thinking about over harvesting. Like they think there's so many of them, and we're putting a bad message out there because people are taking bigger fish than they should. I don't know if you guys found last time you were here, but I certainly, and intuitive data says we're not seeing as big the bigger striped bass
Yeah.
like we used to.
Yeah.
We've already seen an impact of the fishing.
Absolutely.
And so we really should be thinking about as further conservation measures, because the measures that have been more liberal have actually really hurt. And so I'm a believer in harvest. Like, take one take one home with you. That's great. That you should take it home. But this whole idea of guys filling their freezers, nothing good has ever come from that, ever.
Or using it for lobster bait.
Speaking
of which, have you talked? I'm sure you have. You've talked to somebody in the native community. They got a quota of 125,000 more fish. Are they saying, "Yes, guy, thank you so much," or are they saying, "This is stupid, guys. This is not right"?
Remember, like, there's only, from what I understand, and I don't have all the information because the DFO guards that with their life.
Right.
You don't get public. From what I understand, there's only one harvester that's benefiting from all that quota. They haven't been able to get it. In fact, 2 years ago, they left their nets in all winter because they couldn't get them out. And so we see it. We see it along the rivers. You guys are here. It's like, I went there to meet. I thought there was such a great economic opportunity for us to have a limited commercial fishery through the First Nations, to value add that product to be served within the restaurants in the Miramichi region, and really value add that so that we save the school and increase the monetary return for them. Mm-hmm. And if you have a less recreational efforts in terms of harvest, then the value of that restaurant meal over at the Rod's Inn goes way up.
And that's what people have to understand, is exactly what you just said. Now, the unfortunate part with this, though, Jeff, and we've told you this in the past, one of the things we're usually disappointed with on our trips down to your neck of the woods, the East Coast, is that there are no opportunities to go to a restaurant and actually have a striped bass meal. Nobody's utilizing it anyways. So really, you're devaluating something that's already not being used. And to use it for lobster bait, I mean, that's just
it's one of the nicest fish we've ever eaten. I mean, it's unbelievably good.
But think about, if you're a single harvester with 3 or 4 guys and you pull in 50,000 fish and you get $4 a fish for it, you make 200 grand. You only been at it for a week. It's not bad.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Good money.
So why would you go ahead and try and value add stuff? And they did things like they're allowed to keep big fish in those nets. Like, they don't have the slot limit. They did have a slot limit, and then they took that away. And so now that's why we're seeing the impact. The other thing that really bothers me the most, and this is the part that I'm after DFO. What does our recruitment number look like? Down in the United States, they're almost ready to shut the fishery down because the young of the year are not surviving, and they know that that's going to have an impact. We don't even know. The fish that we're counting are 4 years old or better. So we could have a problem and we won't even know for 4 years. And when you're here in the spring and you've been here, the last couple of springs, the spawn's gone and they got cold, and then it went on again and off. And who knows what the survival rate of those fry are. Not great if it gets cold.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned temperature, because I think that obviously has a lot to do with what's going on with the stripers in the river. But this last time that we were there, we did find some interesting facts that 1 or 2 degrees will shut that spawn down immediately, and they'll head back out. And most of them will not come back in to reproduce. So that has a lot to do with what we've noticed the last few years down there. There's just not the same numbers coming in. With that in mind, the few that are coming in, if now they're getting harvested at the rate that the new regulations will allow, I think your estimate about the total decline within 3 years, I think, is way off. I think it could happen immediately, if not as we speak. It won't take that long before we find out, we need to shut it down.
Just kidding.
I would love to have an economic impact study comprehensive on the value of that fish released versus the value of that fish taken, and what it means to all the villages around the whole coast of New Brunswick, Gas Bay, they're up there. Andrew Murphy and those fellas are doing a great job. They got a great fishery going on, fishing the flats, all down Richard-Bucto, Capillet, all through Bucktouche and Shediac. And now over in PEI, 2 or 3 new tackle shops, people out fishing the flats. All those fish come from the Miramichi. And so as the Striped Bass Association, we saw we've got a petition on the go, 7,000 people so far. We started to get chapters of that in each one of the provinces. We're in the process of constitution and bylaws so we can set up bank accounts to start getting donations to fund a legal fund to get after these folks, because 16,000 people in Quebec are already signed up for their group. So we think we've got more votes than the salmon guys. And one thing I know for sure, if we got more votes, we're going to win.
Yeah.
And we just have to have a way to organize it. And, I got some pretty good guys. They always go, well, you take the lead on that. I'm like, I can't take the lead on everything. Like, come on. Like, everybody's got to put their shoulder behind this.
Right.
I'm happy to assist. In January, there's a stakeholder meeting at the Eastern Recreation Advisory Committee for DFO. And we're planning to have a big push there. Last year I went there and I told people at the time that this was going to happen, and they all told me I was crazy. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I can read the tea leaves. I can just tell by the way things are going, they're going to take another 100,000. I even had some of the signers, oh, Jeff, that'll never happen. I'm telling you, the salmon guys, when you think about it, the New Brunswick Salmon Council, the Miramichi Salmon Association, the Atlantic Salmon Federation, the Miramichi Watershed, the Quack Watershed, they're all the same damn people.
Yeah.
Right? So there's the Miramichi Striper Cup has a seat at that table. So we get to ask good questions, but now we're going to try and get this.
I can see them looking at your group though and saying, yeah, but they've got a vested interest.
Exactly.
And it's money. What's the difference between money spent on the striped bass tournament fishing than it is for salmon anglers recreational fishing? It's money is money, Yeah. So yes. I can see them using that as a. I mean, let's be honest. None of us are completely clear of this. We all do it for our own selfish reasons. I want to see that. I want to see that fish survive there because I selfishly want to go out and fish for them. So exactly. I've got a sort of a hidden agenda as well. The only thing here that I have to question, going back to, and I don't want this to be a witch hunt against the Atlantic Salmon Federation, because I want to tell you as well, some 20 some odd years ago, we worked very closely with the Federation down there, and at that time, the president was John Anderson, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe that was his name, and they were doing some really, really good work. You could see that there was a purpose for them. You could see that they actually rolled up their sleeves and they went out and got their feet wet, in the rivers and actually worked to conserve the species. But I'm sensing there's been a lack of that as of late.
I think they're still doing that. I mean, they're working on habitat and they're
okay.
They're still doing all that.
Okay.
The part and we support that. We support all that work. So scapegoating the striped bass to try and cull them makes no sense scientifically. It's not going to be the thing that saves the striped bass or the salmon. So all they're doing is starting a war with 20,000 people that really enjoy a fisheries. Like, I'm not out there going, let's kill all the salmon. Then we don't have to have this conversation anymore. And then, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, we believe in salmon conservation. I believe now more than ever that we need to shut that fishery down.
Yeah.
And we need to shut it down and never mind, hook and release up in these pools in August when they got to shut every day. It's okay, though. It's open because the water temperature is good. And then tomorrow it's shut because it's too warm. That salmon is going to be stressed, and then he's going to be living in that. And we know, and then all that sort of thing, like, it's just ridiculous. And so we should be having a 2-mile buffer zone around the river and tributaries so that the canopy is there to cool the water. But that'll never happen.
Is
You know what?
anybody talking like that? Is anybody other than yourself that maybe is a little more invested in the salmon fishery? Are any of them talking the way you're talking right now? Or is this all about killing the bass? Let's just get rid of bass and we'll be
I
good.
sit at that stakeholder meeting and I don't hear anything about that. Wow. All I hear about is we got to get rid of these striped bass and the populations and blah, blah, blah.
That's
and
crazy.
They would gain a lot more traction, but they're not going to, you know what I mean? Because the big timber companies, they need this stuff, but we should be able to have better buffer zones. We don't even have anybody in the woods looking at the buffer zones as they sit today. Like you go around, it's illegal to cut within 75 meters of the water, yet I can run up the river on the St. John River in any given day and see people trimming hedges and stuff off the river. Like,
And it's called encroachment, and that's why this fish is in peril all over the planet. It's not just there. Everywhere that it used to thrive it's just not happening anymore. I mean, when you look at, if nothing else, when you look at temperature change, they're probably one of the most sensitive fish when it comes to 1 degree.
For sure.
Right? And all of these things that you just mentioned that we are responsible for, you know, whether it's clear cutting or spraying pesticides or diverting dams. How about dams? Has anybody said, hey, we've obstructed?
The St. John River got a great big dam in the middle of it. It was the largest salmon river in the world.
Yeah.
Right before the dam.
Yeah,
Now,
true.
31 salmon last year went over the dam.
Oh my God.
31.
Wow.
So you guys were here at the Pan American, so up in Nackwick, up in that water, 31. Yep. So they shut the rest of the river all the way to Beechwood to protect those 31 salmon.
Which is noble in theory. It makes sense. There's only 31. We have to protect them, but
there might be only 30 now. My buddy got one a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, I'm just joking.
Hey Jeff, sorry, Ange. You said that there used to be in the native cull, there used to be a size limit, and now they've dropped that as well.
Yeah, in the commercial fishery.
Yeah, so they're obviously live catching these then. The netting
they were netting them, trap nets. Yeah,
trap nets. Okay, so
we've seen them.
Yeah, I just want the audience to understand that these aren't gill nets and they're not just catching and killing everything. So there is a possibility of a 20-pound striper could be released. There's a quota there that if they had side limits.
They don't have to now. Yeah.
That's insane because it's so easy to do.
Part of the ASF's proposal to DFO was for DFO to help the natives actually get these fish and develop a market for them. So they said, look, you got to help them get these fish and you need to help them build a market to sell them.
Right, which makes sense. If you're on that side of the equation, it makes sense, right? Let's build a market, build it and they will come. In this case, build a market and they will harvest fish and sell it to us. So,
but who's going to buy you're going to have a nice prime, perfect striped bass. As we all know, the prime size, eating and whatever in that 20-something inch range versus a 40-inch fish. People, maybe they won't realize it, but I don't know where they're going to sell a 40-inch fish or who's going to buy a 40-inch.
More is not better?
Well, there you go.
Think of how
big old 25-pound pike tastes much better than a 5-pound pike.
How it applies to the program we did. Dean helped me with this one a few episodes ago about the mislabeling of fish.
Right.
That's where size matters, right? When you can get a
giant
40-pound striper and cut it up into pieces and sell it as orange roughy, or Chilean sea bass, which is very similar to it. Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand it for sure. All right, so we're now going to see if we can use the law to your advantage by signing as many people as you can to this petition and lawsuit, actually, and then take that to Ottawa and see if it moves the needle.
Well, so what we did is, we are right now investigating whether or not we could injunctive relief against the DFO, where we have a law firm that we've contacted who, thankfully, one of the very few lawyers that is not a salmon angler. And
that's right too. That's right. I never even thought of that. The whole legal system would be.
And the judges and everybody else are all members of these fancy clubs. And so it's like, it's like going against the friggin', like going against Putin in Russia with the friggin' free press. And so we were able to do that. He certainly gave us some time. They came back the first section will be about $7,500, which is basically just to discover if we can get injunctive relief, what that looks like. Can they make policy? Does the minister have any obligations? That sort of thing.
What you need to do is find an attorney, a good attorney who loves bass fishing, or better yet, get one of these guys, take them out bass fishing for a day or two, convert them, and then get them to work pro bono.
I have a great guy that's actually out of Hamilton that lives from here. That's from here, and he's a tournament bass angler.
Oh, great!
So
go.
He suggested that he can help at least as much as he can, and so that's the guy I've been dealing with.
Good.
And so we have. I don't know if you saw the Telegraph Journal thing. Some other guy decided he's going to sue DFO for not taking enough bass.
Yeah, I read that.
Which is like ridiculous. And that guy's not even from he's from Nova Scotia.
By the way, can we just stop for a minute? Because I'm thinking if somebody just jumped in on this from another planet and they're saying, okay, what are you guys griping about? Because I read that this is an invasive species after all, who was not in the Miramichi, and we let it in, and now it's destroyed the local fishery. And there's nothing farther from the truth than that. And I want to dispel that once and for all. Striped bass on the Miramichi have been there, if not since the beginning of time, pretty damn close.
Same amount of time as the salmon.
Exactly. So this is not an invasive species. Let's get that on the table, make it perfectly clear for anybody who does not understand that. This is a native fish, and a group of people have taken it upon themselves to annihilate the entire gene pool of this fish in the Miramichi on the basis that without science, or no, as you say, there is science to prove it wrong.
Yeah.
Without the science that says this is, first of all, even if there was science there, it's a native fish. How can you step in and eradicate a native fish because another species is not doing well? That part just doesn't make sense to me at all.
And I said this to the salmon guys. Why don't we put a net across the river up in Sunny Corner and wait till keep all the power up there until the bass are done spawning and let them leave, and then take the net out and let them go. Like, is it that hard to?
That's not that ridiculous. That's not that ridiculous of a notion,
It's pretty. You saw Sunny Corner, it's only about 100 yards across. You know what I mean? We could literally do it. This is what I said. I had because they contacted the city of Miramichi to try and get me in trouble because I'm fighting the salmon or whatever. And,
of course.
Right. Because they want to try and get me fired from the Striper Cup or whatever. So I just said, look, I'll meet with you. Let's talk about it. Because, I think salmon need to survive. So, but I just don't agree that the way they're going about it is the way that it's going to have any impact. Now, we need to get, so that's why I said, why don't we just put a net across, a barrier, and just stop them all from coming down till after, June 4th or 5th, the river gets evacuated and there's no striped bass in the river.
Interesting, wouldn't it?
That would be really interesting. I love that idea, actually.
I wonder if it's even physically possible, whether it would work. It sounds ridiculous, but boy, wouldn't that be a great solution to a problem?
Well, even if you have a trap net, you truck them down, put them in the ocean.
Yeah.
They're talking about there's only, 10,000. What's the number? If it's, it protects the species, you're going to kill another species. I think it was Gordon Preiser actually that said, gave me that no one's going to agree that killing one species over another is a successful management program. It's just never going to happen. And so, I'm going to agree with that. Like I said, it's like the St. John River. I said, we got 31 salmon. Well, we don't do any work on the St. John River to manage bass, muskie, anything. And yet we should be managing the St. John River for what we have and will have, not for what we used to have. And it's very similar. White-tailed deer push the caribou out of New Brunswick. Whitetail in New Brunswick is an invasive species.
Okay.
But we manage them. We're not planting caribou everywhere, right? So we've had to adapt to the changes in the world.
I think
And-
the caribou needs
Federation.
an Atlantic Caribou Federation.
I knew you were
maybe
gonna
there's
say
an
that.
offshoot there.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Maybe there's an offshoot. Sometimes you have to evolve. Maybe they
Yeah.
need to go target caribou. I don't know.
But all southern rivers are like this. Every southern river, I don't care where it is, everything is north. The temperature's coming farther up.
Exactly.
We got great white sharks. In New Jersey this year, they had mahi.
We
saw that.
We saw.
Yeah.
We had
Joe
somebody on the
Cermelli.
show, somebody on the program, Joe Cermelli, has invited us down at any time we want to go and have the best, in his opinion, best mahi fishing on the planet is happening right now in
Jersey.
In Jersey. I mean, it's
Well, if you wanted to get, you guys should get Steve Delaney on here. Steve, you guys fish with him and everything. It's just a world of wealth of information, a great guy. And I've tried to get him kind of to help out with the Striped Bass Association, but he's a busy guy, but he provides a lot of information. And that guy, like I say to him, I'm just frustrated. Like, come on, Steve, we gotta do this for your kids. Like, he's got young kids, and I'm like, we need to protect this. Or do the best we possibly can with what God gave us to work with. Like this, we can't stop climate change. Maybe we can make some adjustments. I'm not sure, but at the end of the day, change is coming. And I'm a businessman. I've been in the same company for 37 years. And the number one thing in business is to manage change. And those who can manage change the best are the most successful companies in the world. That's where Simpson Sears, where'd they go? Hudson Bay. They didn't manage change. So even in fisheries, government, managing change, like Trump, managing change, whether it's good or bad or whatever, we still have to manage that change. Right?
Good point.
Am I going to make the assumption that you have invited the representatives from the Federation to sit at a table with you?
Well, we do that at the stakeholders meeting. So I haven't invited them.
And what's the net result of those discussions?
Well, the net result was a cull of the Atlantic of the striped bass.
But what was the argument? There had to be a debate back and forth.
They're saying, as Alan Curry, who's the head of the Rivers Institute, just said, that if they don't do something, it's going to make the salmon extinct. That he just put that in the article that I shared, and I got on John Chilliback, the journalist, and I said, "Listen, you just quoted a guy that's bought and paid for by the Canadian Rivers Institute, who was donated a $20 million house by the Urban Group."
But you must have science there that also can speak to that issue.
Oh, they do. They do. Scott Douglas, those guys, they're there. I ask the question, they give me the answer, and they do a roundabout to the minister to make a political decision. This reference points for the striped bass lower and upper level was a committee that was to be developed. They to get together, and they all were supposed to go on there as non-biased committee members, for which I was one. In the very first committee meeting, they admitted that they got together before the meeting and already made up their mind. And I asked GFO to have them thrown from the committee, because we promised when we joined the committee, with a subcommittee, to be non-biased, which is what I was doing. I didn't get together with all the bass guys and come up with a decision. But the same guys had all got together and already said that this is wrong. And so they shut this committee down right away. It's still supposed to be going. It's supposed to be part of the precautionary approach to fishery management that the framework that DFO lives by under policy. And that's the basis for why I want to go legal, because they're not following their own mandates.
How'd you find that out? How did you guys find out they did that?
Because I asked, when I was in the committee meeting, I said, well, you guys must have got together. Well, of course we did.
Hello.
And I'm like, so me being the quiet mouse I am, I said, well, hold it. So you guys have circumvented the actual committee you were invited and agreed to be nonpartisan on? I vote that we need to get them off the committee. And since then, there's never been a meeting. It's been on hold. And I asked the director at the last January meeting if they were going to bring that up again, and they're not meeting. In fact, I got on the other committee for the St. John River, And that committee has been completely shut down because I ask good questions. I'm not a scientist. Excuse me, sir. I have a small question.
You are a shit disturber is what you are.
I love this guy.
Okay? That's what you're labeled as.
Oh,
And
for sure.
in this case, I think the Atlantic striped bass needs somebody on their team that is willing to get the uniform dirty, because it sounds like we're lacking in that. For example, I mentioned scientific proof. Why do we not have the scientific community getting together that has, I'm sure, documented studies from the river that would dispel any myth at all?
I've got a letter signed by 5 PhDs that was sent to DFO. And I have, we have the striped bass research team, and we have the Katy University, and these folks you've all met. You got to remember too that they're in a precarious position, because where do you think the research dollars all come from? The government.
Well, it's got to be somebody that's not dependent on that. I mean, there's got to be a scientist. Dean, put out a call to Dr. Cook, will you please? We'll see if we can get him involved in this. That's what we need. We need a Dr. Cook to get involved. Somebody with a big reputation in the business that can once and for all stand up and is not afraid to stand up and say, hey, based on science, here are the facts.
And that's my argument, Ange. I don't argue that I know more science than them. I just want, if Dr. Avery says to me, Jeff, we can take 100,000, 175,000 fish out of the school, it'll be no problem.
Yep.
I'm good.
Yep.
You're good.
But when he says it might destroy it in 3 years,
we had him.
I'm not good anymore.
Yeah, did we not have him on the show, Dean?
Yeah, he was
Dr.
on.
Avery was on here. He just blew us away with the information he had. That was insane.
I sit, the Striper Cup, I get to stand on shore with that guy, and I'm just beat, because I'm selfish. I want to know more about my quarry than I can shake a stick at, right? And so they, I just keep asking him questions. I took him fishing. I said, he's not much of a fisherman, but he sure knows about the fish. I know how to catch them. So between the two of us, we had a great day of fishing. So those guys, but we need that. And it shows, and I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate you bringing the spotlight to this, because it's conversations like this that maybe we'll shake the trees, and maybe there is a young PhD student that wants to get involved. I tried to find a lawyer, because I said, when we sue DFO, you are going to be a famous lawyer, right? So so a lot of oh man, I don't want to get in that. The judge that I got the next week, he's going up to the salmon fishing the rest of the roost, and I can't go here because the guy that runs our firm owns a salmon lodge up in the Miramichi.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'm like, oh my God. So I just so I had to go out of province. That's what I did. I immediately said, who do I know that wouldn't be connected in this? And that was Robbie Hooper from Hooper Law in Hamilton. And I said, Rob, would you give me a hand or just guide me a little bit? And he was very gracious and said, look, Jeff, I'll dig into it a little bit. And he did. And he got his research buddy that works for him. And he goes, look, it's going to cost some money. It's going to cost a bit of money. And I appreciate that. So that's where we are. And, I don't know, we got a pretty good group.
Is there an opportunity to raise some funds here? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, that's what we're going to try and do. The Striped Bass Association is based out of Nova Scotia, and we're just trying to get the chapters. We have one for Miramichi all lined up. We raised $5,000 in the Miramichi Striper Cup for that chapter, so we got a check ready to be signed as soon as they get the bank account and all that things together. We got another fellow in PEI is doing exactly the same thing as another chapter, Nova Scotia, and as well as a fellow in Quebec. So once the paperwork's done and we're maybe a week away from finishing that, then we're going to start a fundraising campaign, and we're also going to be applying all those different user groups, stakeholder group are going to apply for a seat at the table for the recreational committee in January.
Of course.
So instead of having 40 salmon guys and me, maybe we can have 40 salmon guys and 6 striper guys. So at least somebody else can talk while I'm doing the rope-a-dope, and the days are all coming at me.
Exactly. Keep us informed on that, my friend. When you're ready for that, maybe we can get you back on the program and see if we can't drum up some support from the audience. In the meantime, if somebody listening maybe is in a legal position to help, or maybe has information that might help, how can they get a hold of you? Where can they reach out?
Just grab me on Facebook, or just my cell phone number hasn't changed since they invented cell phones. And so it's the same cell phone number. I'm happy to reach me on Facebook, get me the Miramichi Striper Cup. We got message us there. We got a great group, and these guys are coming out of the woodwork. And the best part is, and you guys will appreciate this, I got some young lads that are donating time.
Nice.
And really, that's what we need. We need to be able to hand that torch of this to somebody else that can help. I'll keep helping as long as, God willing, I'm around to do it. I'm a couple years away from retirement, but when that happens, then I imagine it'll be a full-time job by then. I should be able to make at least $1,000 a year with this here striper stuff. Hey,
keep up the good work, buddy. You're doing well. Let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah. The fellow that says he's never retired yet.
Yeah. Jeff, thank you very much as usual. If there's anything we could do, you can reach out to us. And we certainly have a soft spot in our heart for not just the striped bass on the Miramichi, but the Miramichi itself. Whether it's Atlantic salmon or anything else that is in the swim. It's become our home away from home in terms of fisheries. We absolutely love it. Tremendous history, tremendous story, and just to be standing on the banks of the Miramichi, even if you don't fish, you could just look out over that water, man. You can smell the history, you can smell the richness of the resource, all that wonderful stuff that unfortunately a lot of people haven't had a chance to experience. So when they hear people like you with so much passion about it, they have to understand it comes honestly, because to live in that area, work and play in that area is truly a gift. And you have it in spades, my friend.
Yeah, well, I'd like to really thank you guys and the whole Fishing Canada team. You guys have been here every time we ask for help, and we really appreciate it. It shows the 40 years. I guess next year's 40 years for you guys.
Brother.
Baby.
You know it.
So, that's great, and I really appreciate that support, because it can be a lonely fight sometimes here behind the keyboard.
You're never alone, buddy.
We're with you, buddy.
All right, take care.
See you, boys.
Jeff Wilson, angler extraordinaire, sportsman extraordinaire,
co-founder of the
Striper Cup.
Miramichi Striper Cup.
Caretaker of the outdoors. Everything you want to
He's a good guy to have on your side, that's for sure.
Wonderful gentleman.
Without a doubt. Right?
Listen, he's got his hands full because
that's
and
a tough battle, man.
I don't want to say this, but the Atlantic Salmon Federation is probably in the top 5 wildlife associations in terms of organization, financial backing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a tough fight.
It's like me getting in the ring with Alex Pereira.
I put money on you. I put money on you.
You're stuffing a gun in my back of my shorts, aren't you? Because that's the only way I'm going to take down Alex.
It's going to be a tough fight, and they are so well organized. That's the scary part.
Well, yeah. Let's think about it. What he said, they're lawyers and judges and everybody. They will have everything dialed in as best they can. So it'll be
There is something though to be said about fishing for Atlantic salmon on places like the Miramichi, which are one of the legendary Atlantic salmon playgrounds. There is something to be said about being out there with a fly rod and
of course,
first thing in the morning in that bend. And
it's funny that we're not going against the Atlantic salmon fishing; they're going against the striped bass fishing, right? You know what I mean? So there's a big difference in that, right? So because you're right, that's part of the heritage of fishing, right there. The East Coast or Canadians in general. It's such a nice thought, it's a nice picture to be painted. We don't want to take that away from somebody.
I can see why somebody would, maybe a little ill-informed, maybe, I don't know, but I can see why somebody would want to defend that.
Of course.
Right, because it is a pretty special place in the world.
Yep.
And anyways, it'd be interesting to see how this whole thing shapes up.
It might not be great, but
obviously, from our standpoint, if you haven't already noticed, we are so dead set against tampering with anything that nature has put in our way in terms of wildlife. We think that the salmon and bass should be able to coexist. Maybe that's foolish. Maybe that's a little bit of a, romantic approach to the whole thing. But we think they should all be able to do their thing without human interference. But maybe we do interfere when we go down there and fish them. Who knows? Anyways.
True.
That are it. I want to thank everybody. Oh, by the way, I have to remind folks, of course, Boxing Day, 25% on everything, I'm told, 25% off on everything in the store for Boxing Day only. I'm not sure if there are any other restrictions other than go to fishingcanada.com and go into the retail store, and everything that's there apparently is going to be available at 25% off for the entire Boxing Day period. I don't know whether that's a day, whether it's Boxing Day week, but we will find out.
Well,
Come on now.
I think it's a pretty good deal. I think people should, hell yeah. Look at that new shirt Ans's got on there, the
Give me
brookie
a hell
shirt.
yeah!
Got all of them right behind
baby.
you guys if you're watching on YouTube.
Wow. Look at
No.
that. Look at it.
Oh,
Look at
that's the
these.
new stuff, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Quite nice. This is the oldest of old school stuff. You
Yeah.
can still get this, can't they?
Unavailable.
I think.
No.
No?
Yeah.
It's
No.
unavailable now? I
Yeah.
shouldn't even wear it, should I? I could sell this. Anybody want to buy this sucker?
There's number one right there.
Nah, I like the Chinook. That's it. I just showed Hunter last night and he called it Chinook.
Chinook.
That's a Chinook?
You got brookie, walleye, chinook, and, of course, rainbow trout. You can't...
Nice. That's the new walleye.
Speaking of Boxing Day, did you guys do the bonus code? Yeah.
No.
why
We did
don't
not.
we do that? We were waiting for you to
Yeah.
prompt us. The thing is, Dean, we could make your life real easy and just do all this stuff
And there's
organically. But, it doesn't take away the fact that you get paid to work.
That's right.
And therefore, I was waiting to say that we interrupt this program to bring you the much anticipated bonus code for the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. The code is Boxing. Nice connection to Boxing Day. That's Boxing, BOXING. I believe all capital letters.
That's right.
At least that's what it says here. Just type that in the bonus code section. You'll receive not 1 kitties, but 10
Come on now.
free entries into all the giveaways that are there now. I don't even have the time to go through all of the various giveaways.
Is this not over now, Dean, though?
Nope.
Boxing
it's still
Day?
on.
After,
Still going.
It's supposed to be on until Christmas, no?
I think it's the week after, but I
Extending?
could be wrong.
No, you've
I-
been
Just
wrong
in case,
once or
but
twice.
just maybe not. If it's not on,
Well,
at least
this
we're going
one-
to give a very special
this one
thanks to
is.
J&B Cycle.
This one. That
That'll
is
work
there.
good.
That
Okay.
is there.
I don't want to call anybody out on this, but I wanted to go back just to say thanks to J&B Cycle in case that's over for their support. You know what I mean?
And they
So-
will have some more coming down the line.
That's
They
right.
have some really cool ones.
And look
in
at
the
this. And
Have
look
we,
at this.
have we got
Hello.
is the boat up there by any chance? The
boat,
Princecraft boat and motor trailer? Is that
We're still waiting on it to be powered.
Oh, okay. All right. But it should be, as we speak, like days from
It's on
now,
its
it
way.
should be available.
I wonder if the question or the comment that was in here, the LiveScope comment earlier, I wonder if that's the unit he bought or if he bought a boat unit. That's the question, right?
That is
That's-
something we should find out next
Find
time.
out. He upped his game pretty good.
All right, that are it, folks. We've milked this puppy for all it's worth. On behalf of the entire Outdoor Journal Radio podcast team, Volva, who's yawning over there, we got to do? We got to get him something to do during these long podcasts.
He's listening to something else. That's what he's doing.
Well, I know, but
So he's doing something else. He's listening to news or something.
All right, maybe we should get plugged into whatever he's listening to. Maybe that would help us. Maybe we need help.
I got a feeling it's in Ukrainian, number one. So that would really, and that's in one of our ears. Then you or me in the other ear.
Oh.
We're hurting Eunice, buddy.
Nick, who almost stayed through the entire program today.
Give me a hell yeah!
That is a huge feat, so it must have been exceptionally interesting. And of course, Dean, who
Come on
is
now.
working tediously.
He's glued to his seat through the whole program.
I'm Angelo Bell. He is Peter Bowman. Thanks for joining us, folks. Talk to you next time. This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio has been brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. J&B Cycle & Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. and Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.